Hello everybody, this is Stephen Howson. This is my Manchester United youth review. Now this is probably going to move around a little bit over the season. I do want to try and make it on Thursdays because Thursdays is nice time to preview what's going on the Saturday, which is typically when the under-18s are going to play, and it's further enough away from the Monday to have a digest and think about what's just happened with the under-23s and the reserves and all the rest of it. So we got a newly fixed up Premier League 2. It's basically the same as the under-21s was, but now it's under-23s. That's literally all that's changed. Richard Scudamore, the gaffer at the Premier League, has come out and said that the average age of Premier League debutants is between 22 and 23, and that is the reason for the distinction, moving it up to 23 years of age for the new Premier League 2. He's also spoken about the Elite Player Performance Pathway, the EPPPPPPP, being judged on players reaching the first team. Now, last season, 67 players made their debut in first teams from academies, which is like around, just over 3 per club. Now, Lou Van Gaal in his 2 years at Manchester United gave out 14 debuts, massively exceeding the national average that we've seen there. Possibly dealing with some of the most intense pressure at Manchester United as well to succeed compared to any manager. So why is there more pressure not put on the lower level Premier League teams and managers to develop players? That should be where it's easier to bring players. It should be harder to bring through players at the top. They should be almost world class, shouldn't they, to be able to break into top 5, top 6 Premier League teams. There should be less pressure on the teams, from 9th to 14th, in my opinion, anyway. And for me, that's where the journeyman players go. Typically, you don't really see journeyman players at the top. You usually see them around there, around that sort of thing, and that's where they're coming in and earning massive wages. And I think that's where you could see a lot of teams finding stuff really good with good young players and all the rest of it. So that's where I think this should be a change in mentality. But the average life expectancy of a Premier League manager at the moment means that they're under so much pressure that it's difficult for them to try and bring through. But Lou Van Gaal proved that you can do it if the raw materials are there and if there's a culture and a will to bring through academy players, then you can do it. So anyway, without much further ado, let's get into it. So the under-21s/23s/reserves, you're going to hear them called all the same things all season, I reckon. Obviously, 21s is incorrect, but 23s and reserves seems to be what they're likely to be getting called. Warren Joyce's side, let's just call it that. Warren's class. Absolutely class. He's been phenomenally successful in extremely difficult circumstances season on season. His side is pilfered by the first team. For its best players as well. It's not the worst players that get dragged up into the first team, is it? The loan market sees so much of the rest of his side taken to pieces. So what does he have left? Typically he has the 18, 19-year-olds that are too old for the 18s but not really good enough to be going out on loan, not really pushing to be into the first team place. And then you've got those that are coming back from injury. And to make this side competitive like he does season on season, when he can't sign anyone, is some sort of genius for me. So this season, I think Manchester United are going to struggle. By the looks of it, Jose Mourinho has taken those that are on the fringes of the first team and brought them in, and they don't look like they're going to be playing any part for the 2 games that we've seen so far. And if you want to include the game against Oldham in the Lancashire Senior Cup, I guess you can do as well. We've not seen Timothy Fosu-Mensah, we've not seen Rashford, and I think that's quite key that they are now fully fledged members of the first team, which I like, but it definitely weakens this side. And Joyce knows this. After our defeat on Monday night against Saints, Joyce come out and said, some of our players are deluded and lack ambition. Now, I like Joyce for a lot of reasons, and this is one of them. Other coaches that I speak to, when they speak of Warren Joyce, they have a bit of a look in their face like, it's hard to explain, but there's a respect about him. There's an aura about talking about Warren Joyce. I mean, the level of success that he's had, as I said, in some of the crazy difficult circumstances that we have, being an under-21, 23/reserve manager, he pulls it out of the bag year in, year out. And I believe this is because he's a hard-working man that demands a lot from his players. Now, we've seen countless lazy superstars, like Andres Pereira, dragged into his team and been transformed into complete footballers. They've come with a technical ability, a lot of skill and the rest of it, and there's one that's just been put into the team at the moment. And I spoke to Clayton Blackmore last season about a certain player, Callum Gribbin, and Blackmore said he needs Warren Joyce's guidance. Warren Joyce's guidance is going to be what's key to him. Gribbin's a fantastic footballer, but he's too inconsistent. And I know you can't demand consistency from academy players, but he's inconsistent compared to his peers. He's not inconsistent for what you would call a world-class winger. He's inconsistent compared to those around him. The players around him are producing levels of consistency, and it almost seems like an attitude thing to me. You see the coaches just going on at him. Gribbin will do something of unbelievable, mouth-open magic that'll have you standing up and clapping, going, that was absolutely fantastic. But it's every third or fourth game, and it's 5 seconds, it's one move, it's one goal, it's one shot, it's one take on, it's one thing in a game. And that's not football. You're without the ball for 45 minutes of the game, on average, depends who you're playing. That's when you see good footballers. What they do without the ball tells you more about what they can do with the ball. Now, there's some exceptions to that rule. Lionel Messi does absolutely jack shit on the ball, off the ball. When he gets the ball, shit comes alive. But for the most part, most players are not Lionel Messi. Most players need to work in a system, work in a team, and be a productive member of that team, not just doing it for themselves. So I think this is a key year for Callum Gribbin, and the right man to sort him out is Warren Joyce. So hopefully Warren Joyce can do that. Now, we've seen this side play combination of 4-3-3 and 4-2-3-1 this season. I'm not sure if there's any sort of solid reason behind that, or if we're just trying to accommodate and trying to find the right sort of system for this team. We lost the Saints, and it was clear from the start, really, that this isn't even close to our best side. As I said earlier, no Rashford, no Fosu-Mensah, no Pereira, no Keane, no Borthwick-Jackson. These lads alone would have turned that result around. I have no doubts about that whatsoever. It was fairly close, but there was just no spark. There was no one in that team that you're like, you're going to make the difference. And those players that I've just listed would absolutely make the difference. Now, he's working with a side that I think needs a striker. Needs a striker. And until we've got one, we're going to struggle, because we're playing a little bit like Arsenal. Our under-23s are a little bit, in my opinion, like the way Arsenal are. And Arsenal are never going to be a threat because they don't have that different type of player. Our academy at the moment has got a lot of the very, very same sort of player. Players that are excellent technically, well-rounded, likeable, but there's nothing unique about any of them that make you think that's going to change the game. Will Keane alone in this game would have made a massive difference. Andreas Pereira, someone who's likely to run with the ball, do that little bit extraordinary, would have made a difference. We don't have that focal point of the team. We're playing 6 forward players, some of them as a right winger, some as a left winger, some as a 10. James Weir as the striker. They're all the same player. They're all the same characteristics, and none of them are doing stuff different. So you can't, let's spin it out to the right, because when it goes out to the right, this guy's going to hit the byline, he's going to bang a cross in, and he's going to get to the number 9 who's going to beat everybody in the air, like we've seen Ibrahimovic doing in the first team, and knock it down. Will Keane would be that guy, but I think the likes of Keane and Pereira, they're likely to be going out on loan, which is why I think that we're not seeing them in the under-23s at the moment. And I think if any of the lads step up in the under-18s, they'll get dragged into the 23s, because they are crying out. Joyce can't go and sign anyone for this team, can he? They are absolutely crying out for someone. The other problem that I think we've got is, as I said, everyone's a little bit beige. There's only 2 players that I saw in the Southampton and the game against Leicester the previous Monday that I think, do you know what? You're ready for the first team. Or if you was put into the first team squad, I'd be going, cool, good luck. And that's Riley and Tuanzebe. I really like Riley. I don't think he's the most talented footballer in the world, but he is one of the most hard-working. Think Gary Neville. How far did Gary Neville get on graft and attitude and determination? Joe Riley could be exactly the same. He's a lot faster than Gary Neville. I think he's better on the ball than Gary Neville was. His work rate is going to carry him further than his technical ability. This is the polar opposite of Callum Gribbin. Callum Gribbin's technical ability, if he had Joe Riley's work rate, would probably already be in the first team. But he doesn't, and that's not the way it works, is it? So, Joe Riley, Tuanzebe, they're the 2 standouts for me these last couple of weeks. They're the ones I expect to continue doing it. Now, I spoke to Roshan Williams, another centre-half that I'm pretty hot on, 2-3 weeks ago, and he said he's had a shoulder operation. He's going to be out for about 6 weeks, so add an extra couple of weeks on for that, for getting match fitness and match sharpness back. So you're probably looking at maybe another month from now before you might start seeing Roshan. That might make a difference to the back line. Roshan and Tuanzebe is an excellent centre-half partnership. I'd love to see Fosu-Mensah brought in. If he's not playing for the first team, he needs game time. All the training in the world, it's not going to do anything. You need game time. And even though I bag on the under-23 league, because I think it's beige, it's not competitive enough, it's not hard enough, in my opinion. it's still game time for him, and I think he needs that game time to develop, and that's where I would play him in midfield as well for the whole 90 minutes and show him how to be that central midfielder that I think he can definitely be. Now, the under-18s. So, mixed start for the 23s. Win one, lose one. What's going to happen next week? Don't know. Unless there's a different change of system, there's bringing somebody else in. We play some of the players that are, fringe loan players or whatever. Nothing's going to change. It's going to go the same way all season. I can see it being a long season. It's an unexciting team without a focal point. So that needs to change. But the under-18s, now this is a conundrum and a half. This is a big season. This is a big season in a lot of levels. Because last season they were shit, but they weren't shit. Conundrum, like I said. I spent most of the season, last season, saying, ignore the results. This is about development. And we developed, proof is in the pudding, more players than anybody else. More players into the first team, more players dragged up into the under-21s and never came back. So the under-18s got stripped. So that's testament to how well that was doing. Now, a lot of new signings, some of which still aren't playing. I'm looking at Bowie, Burkhardt, O'Connor, all of these very highly rated. Chong, possibly the most highly rated out of all of those. Against Liverpool at weekend, didn't get enough on the ball, and when he didn't have enough space. There was a little bit of a lack of movement in the under-18s. Angel started off as a number 10 and was doing all right, was beating men, didn't really have the runner off him in the number 9 position, in the wing positions. Chong was, from what I've heard, I wasn't impressed with Chong this weekend, but I have seen him have better games, and I've heard of him having better games as well. And I think it was just that Liverpool side did a number on him. A couple of moments of magic, but nothing over the whole course of a game. I think once he settles, you've got a real player on your hands there. I think he's technically very good. He's aggressive, which I like. And I think the problem is, again, in the 18s, a lack of a focal point. Now, Bowie, that's the B-O-H-U-I, and everyone's been struggling how to say it, Bowie, and well, I spoke to one of the players and he said it's Bowie, like David Bowie. So there you go, Bowie. And Burkhardt, the lad from Switzerland. These are two centre forwards, and Bowie looks like a bit of a big lad as well. So they could be the focal point of this team. Now, once they get into the rhythm of playing with us, that might help us out. The problem we've got is I don't think we've got a proper natural right winger, and that's where we're going to struggle. Because if you've got the two outlets there, and you've got Gomes as your number 10, I think you're fine. DJ Buffon is a player that I quite like. I've seen him have some really good games. I'm not sure I like him as a number 9, though. I'd be tempted to move him back to the 10, fit one of these lads in, Burkhardt or Bowie, as your number 9, and move Angel back as a number 8 almost. Think Iniesta-ish with Angel. I think you get a better Angel when you've got Angel on the ball. There was at one point against Liverpool, he receives the ball on the halfway line, he takes one touch, he doesn't even look like he's looked, and he sprayed out a pass. Not the Rooney-style passes which take ages, and you think, what was the point in doing that? But no, this was Scholes level sort of pass, and he looks like he hits it with the outside of his foot. Unbelievable. The skill level on him is absolutely fantastic. Remember, still 15 till the end of the month, and I think this is a kid that this team needs to build around a little bit. I think this team has really got to use Angel to the best of their abilities, because for me he's the best player. In defence, Tyrell Warren had a decent game. But there's, again, a lot of beige performances. Some of these players need to stand out. They need to think where they are and what they're here to do. They're here to be Manchester United first-team players. And there should be a queue of young studs just hammering down at that door like, let me in. Fosu Mensah did it last season. Rashford, to an extent, did it last season. If you perform in this level, you should be accelerated. Riley definitely did it. Borthwick Jackson did it. You should be accelerated in, and you should be told that that's what's going to happen. But the performances that we've seen so far, back-to-back defeats for the under-18s, reminiscent of last year. I am hearing that there's a new coach on his way in, a geezer called McKenna from Spurs. I don't know how public that is, but that's what I'm hearing. It seems like there is a new coach on the way in. Tommy Martin, don't know what's going to happen with him. I think he come from the under-16s, so he might just go back down to the under-16s again. But there's work to do at the under-18s, and it's the same sort of thing. There's just a lack of aggressive players. Now, Tyler Reid was a player that we saw with that mad aggression, and the club supposedly decided to go with Olasunde as a right-back ahead of Reid, and I'm not sure I agree with that, in all honesty, because Reid was a sort of driving force, similar to Riley, but in the frame of a linebacker that would hammer down that touchline. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he got up and down the touchline, because the guy's massive. But that's the sort of energy that the team doesn't have at the minute. They don't have anyone, apart from Warren, I guess. Warren definitely does it, and I like the leadership that Warren displays. But they don't have anybody else. You need that in midfielder. Where's the bite in midfielder? Where's that nasty bastard in midfielder? Much like the first team, we needed that spark. Pogba's come and give us that spark. Ibrahimovic has come and give us that nasty bastard up front. We need a little bit of that, I think, in both the 18s and the 23s. These lads have got to remember where they are and what they're here to do. They should be banging down that door. Some performances are on higher levels than others. The whole team needs to start raising their game. Long way to go in the season. We're still in August. There's still a lot in the transfer window, in all honesty, as well. So you could see some developments in this. You could see more players brought in. I'm hearing there's some under-15s that are absolutely smashing it at the moment. So wait out on that. As soon as I can get down to a 16s game, I'll give you an update on the 16s to see how they're doing. I'm hearing good things at that level. And I think there might be a few that get dragged in, like we saw last season with Eddie Barlow and Gomes, obviously, dragged into the under-18s. And it end up looking like some of the better performers in that team. In fact, why has Barlow not been playing on the right-hand side? Why are we not trying that? I think he could do a great job there. Anyway, that will do for today, 16 minutes or so. If anybody knows anyone that's good with motion graphics, After Effects, that sort of stuff, I want an opener for this, for the youth review, because it's going to be a regular weekly show. So ideally, I want an opener for every video. So willing to pay anybody. If you know someone who's good, send them my way, please, and I'll get some openers off them. So thank you for watching. This will be probably every Thursday, so please check back, give me a big fat like, make sure you subscribe, because I am this close now to that 20k, massive milestone, and I'll see you next week. In fact, I'll see you tomorrow probably for the Hull City preview. Laters.